Welcome to Aprender Inglés, Hablas Español, Speak Spanish. Okay, in today's lesson, we're going to learn how to conjugate a regular AR verb. Now, the verb today we're going to look at is called pasar, to pass, to happen. So, past participle, when you say P-A-S-T, past, pasado. So when you're passing, it's pasando. So past, P-A-S-S-E-D, or pasando. Passing, P-A-S-S-I-N-G. Present is yo paso. And so you always just drop the AR and add O. So hablo, hablar, hablo, pasar, paso. And then tu pasas. So tu pasas. So you just drop the R and add S. So hablas, hablar, hablas, pasar, pasas. So for it, so it's either él, he, ella, she, usted, which is you, formal, but we're not going to get into that. So that, actually we will get into that. I'll touch on that. Usted, pasa, is very formal. Like that's the way you write a book. So you passed. Pasa is when you're talking about just pasa or habla, that can mean as well it. So keep that in mind, and that will make sense as you're speaking Spanish. So pasa, you just drop the R and don't add anything. Nosotros, so we, pasamos. So again, just drop the R, add MOS. So hablamos, pasamos, and those are both examples. Ellos, ellas is they, or you guys, or ustedes, you guys. So you just drop the R and add N, pasan. Now, as I click on these, we're going to see the translation, and I'm going to touch on that this is present verb as well. So this is happening right now. So I pass, you pass, he pass, or she pass, or even it pass. If we're talking about a car, el carro pasa, el otro carro, the car passed the other car. Nosotros pasamos, we pass, and then they pass. And now, when we talk about future, it's the verb and add E for yo, for I. So, I will pass, you will pass, and you can see the translation at the bottom left there. Tu pasarás, you will pass. He will pass, or she will pass. Nosotros pasaremos, we will pass, and ellos pasarán, they will pass. And you can even say usted pasará, so you will pass, but that's a formal way of saying it. And that is the future. Now when we talk about preterite, we're talking about the past, but this is like I passed you in the past. This is I always used to pass you. So I was always passing you, and that's more of a natural form when we talk about imperfect. So I was naturally always passing you. You were naturally always passing, right? And this is more I passed you once. You passed me once. He passed. Yes. We passed. They passed. and this is I always used to pass you. This is I always used to pass. You always used to pass. He always used to pass. But remember, this verb pasar also means happen. So keep that in mind. Nosotros pasabamos. We always passed. And they always passed. So the way to remember the preterite is just drop the AR and add E. And then drop the R, and well, I always remember it, drop the AR and pasaste. So ASTE. The ending, and say, and this is the same for hablar, hablaste. And then this is just drop the AR and add O, paso, hablo. So as we note, paso, and with the present verb, it's paso as well. So that's easy to remember. And the Spanish people are going to know that you're talking about in the past. You can also say en pasado, el paso. But when you conjugate el there and you say paso, they already know you're talking in the past, because that's just basic conjugation. Pasamos. So again, pasaste, pasamos, pasaron. So those are really easy because they're all A. Now these, I remember it as ABA. So yo pasaba, tú pasabas, el pasaba, and we see that these two are the same. So what they say to do is just make sure you say el before you while you're saying your sentence. Otherwise, they might get it mixed up with yo. So, but if you say yo, you can skip the O. Yo, we assume that you're talking about yo. But when you want to talk about el, you got to actually say formally el pasaba. And that's just experience and conversation, as well as being taught. So that's what I was taught and my experience. Nosotros pasabamos. So we can see the structure and we can see it repeating itself. Pasaba, pasabas, pasaba, pasabamos, pasaban. And that's just ABA. So ABA, MOS, same as we're doing up here. Pasamos, pasabamos, pasan. We see right here, pasaban. So it's really repetitive. And then conditional. I would pass. Or I could. I kind of remember it. Like, I always think of it as could, but I'm also aware that it's would. So either or is obviously conditional wording. So pasaría, I could pass, or I would pass. You would pass. Pasaría. So again with IA, 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 IA. And that's the same with hablar. Hablías, hablia. And we'll take a look at that. Pasamos, paseamos, pasarion. So just to clear up this, now that we catch on that there's a pattern going on here, this is conditional, and it gives you information about past, present, perfect, are formed using the correct form of the helper verb haber. So, and I'll explain that in a sec. The present perfect form is actually a past tense and is the same as the English past form that uses have, has. I have gone, he has eaten. So exactly, I have passed. you have passed. And we see the end is pasado, 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 pasado. And the only difference is the beginning. He, has, ha, hemos, han. And so I have passed. Okay? Now I will have passed, right? And we see the translation at the bottom. And we can see that we have a repeating pattern of when we're talking about the future. Add E, AS, A, emos, and the pattern starts to repeat itself even when we're using the helping verb haber. This I had passed. Right. So something else has to happen, and that becomes really confusing. So the pluperfect describes an action that had already happened in the past when another action happened. So I drank pop because John went to the store. So an action happened because another action had already happened. And it's the equivalent of using had. But just keep what I said in mind. Is one thing happens, well, another thing happens as well. And it looks like the IA is a conditional ending. But in fact, it is conditional, but it's also a statement and a fact, because I had drank pop because John went to the store. So the condition was, I obviously am drinking pop because there's more pop coming, but it's also a fact. And this is where it becomes conditional, where I would have drank pop had John gone to the store. And that's what we're talking about here in the conditional perfect. So it's when a condition happens, that the conditional perfect describes an action that would have or could have happened if a certain other condition had been met, such as I would have drank my pop had John gone to the store. But John obviously didn't go to the store. I'm not going any further into that sentence, but that's what it is. And then past anterior, and this is the past anterior, also known as preterite, is very rarely used in English spoken Spanish. It's more used in grammar, but if you're like me and you like to know everything, I'll explain it anyways. The meaning is the same as pluperfect, we had left, but it is all used almost exclusively in formal writing and literature. Actually, I'm going to leave it at that. Okay? So, as we know, as preterite is just like, it's not a natural thing. It's I had left as opposed to I was always leaving, which is happening all the time, right? So, that I have to wrap up right there and move on to the present subjunctive, which is Joe passé. The subjunctive mood is rarely used in English, but is very common in Spanish. It is used when there is uncertainty in the statement, such as when expressing hope, doubt, wishes, and emotions. I hope that John goes to the store. I doubt that John is going to the store. So he's hoping, he's wishing. So, and it says, I am passing. So just keep that in mind, the conditions. And as we see, there's a pattern here. Passé, passéis, passé, passemos, and passen. But knowing there's a pattern, you'll pick up on the Spanish very quickly, knowing the pattern. When you hear other people say it, you won't miss the word just because you know there's a pattern. You'll hear pass, and then when they say RA, you'll know right away. So future subjunctive, this follows the same usage rule as the present subjunctive, but for the future events. It is possible John will go to the store. I doubt John will go to the store. And that is hoping based on hope as well. Imperfect subjunctive, The imperfect subjunctive follows the same rules as the present subjunctive, but for past event. It is good John went to the store. And as well, the imperfect subjunctive is the exact same meaning as the first imperfect subjunctive form, but is less commonly used in modern speech. It is an older form that you are more likely to see in literature context, and that's true, but you see it in the newspaper as well. So, this is imperfect subjunctive too. Note that, and that's why it's in the newspaper. Present perfect subjunctive. I have passed, and the present perfect subjunctive function, same as the normal indicative present perfect, except that it follows the rules of the subjunctive when there is uncertainty. I doubt that John has gone to the store. I'm surprised there's no condition with that. This is really advanced Spanish, but nonetheless, it is used. The future perfect subjunctive is used to indicative things that will have happened in the future at a certain point following the condition of the subjunctive mood. However, it is rarely used in modern day Spanish and is normally found in literature and writing, so don't worry too much about it. But again, we see there is a pattern to follow. I personally skimmed over this a couple times, and it hasn't failed me. I hear the word, and it's hubiere pasado, and I know that they're talking about the future perfect subjunctive that is used to indicate things that will have happened, so there's a condition, in the future at a certain point following the conditions to the subjunctive mood. So I just hear hub and then pasado, and I already know I'm already thinking that way, or high-end pasado or high-ya pasado, and I'm already thinking that way. So the point is more to understand that there's patterns and not to get too caught up in studying all this stuff. The pluperfect subjunctive is used to express an action that happened before another one in the past, under the conditions of the subjunctive mood. If John had gone to the store, he'd be back by now. So, obviously she's mad. And again, we see the pattern. And as well, this, as you can guess, is literature. Using the imperfect subjunctive form the auxiliary verb haber, which has two different forms. This is using the second, less common form, so don't get too caught up. You're going to hear hub, iese, and then you're going to know it's the less common form. And then we have, this is so hard to pick up that they're using this. Imperative. This is really advanced Spanish. The imperative tense is used when commanding someone to do something. John, go to the store. And that, I've maybe picked up on it like twice in my 4 years of Spanish. Well, 4 years of speaking Spanish to people. I was studying like 2 years before that, so that's how little I pick up on the command. They're commanding their friend. You just kind of start to see weird body language, but if you're really, really on the ball of studying, you'll pick it up. So the point is to understand that there's patterns and repeating patterns, and that there's conditional forms. And and that I have passed, you have passed. That is basic. So there's obviously basic. I pass, you pass. Future, I will have passed. Preterite, past. I passed. Imperfect, in the past, which is I always used to pass you. And then conditional, I would have passed, or I could have. It's I could pass or I would pass. And then we get into I have passed, you have passed, I will have passed. And then we get into understanding that there's conditions as well. Oh, this is subjunctive? Yeah. But there's conditions associated with some of this stuff too. And then there's commands. And so that is the different forms. And as promised, we're going to take a little quick look at hablar, hablaste, hablas. And this is what I said, hablarías. So the form is still the same. It's still the same. Pasado, hablado. Okay? Thank you.